Tulsi Devai Priyayai Kesavatacha Bhakti Party Devi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Janavalabha Girivadadhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Yasodanandana Prajagana Ranjana Ranjana Prajagana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajagana Ranjana Ranjana Prajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Vallabha Girivanadhari Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Jana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Satarya Sri Madha's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Mahi Ki Ganga Mahi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakta Devi Ki Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So today is the anniversary of the cleansing of the Gandhika temple. I wasn't going to read anything initially, but then I probably thought better of it. So we're just going to go back to chapter 12 and read about it, because actually it's something that's important, and it's something we're constantly working on cleansing. This represents our own sadhana, that we have to constantly work, constantly clean, re-clean, in order to make spiritual advancement, especially to accelerate it. So I'm going to start on text number 71, chapter 12. Translation. In this way, the Lord passed some days in great jubilation. Then the car festival of Lord Jagannath approached. So tomorrow's the Rath Yatra. Today they clean the temple. They're cleaning the temple. So in India, of course, there's a time difference. I don't know. Maybe the festival's going on now. I don't know. The car festival. Are we ahead or behind? It's what? It's in the afternoon of cleansing the Gandhika temple or the festival? Okay, so it's actually they're they're probably been cleaning it all day. It's in the afternoon, so tomorrow's the Rath Yatra. That's probably one of the hottest days of the year. It was 103 at my house yesterday on my front porch in the shade. So you can imagine. But it's a dry heat. It's a different type of heat. I noticed in the afternoon it went down to I think 94, 90. It felt good outside, after 103. And this is a good analogy that Prabhupada would use. Sometimes if you have a temperature of 104, and then your temperature goes down to 101, you think, I feel better, but the reality, you're still sick. So this is why we have to constantly clean. Even though we might feel better, the reality is the disease is still there until we achieve prema. Even at the stage of bhava, there's a chance, slight as it might be. Judd Bharat found that out, that there could be some issue that could hinder our progress. Okay, 71, 72. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundika. Am I saying that right? Gundika. Oh, yeah, long A. Okay. I'm going to mess that up a number of times, so just... There we go. Purport. The Gundika temple is situated... This is not going to work. The Gundika temple is situated 2 miles northeast of the Jagannath temple. At the time of the Rath Yatra festival, Lord Jagannath goes to the Gundicha. Okay. Lord Jagannath goes to the Gundicha temple from his original temple and stays there for 1 week. After 1 week, he returns to his original temple. It is understood by hearsay that the wife of Indrajuma, the king who established the Jagannath temple, was known as Gundicha. There is also mention of the name of the Gundicha temple in authoritative scripture. The area of the Gundicha temple is estimated to be 288 cubics by 215 cubics. A cubic is about 1.5 feet. The main temple inside is about 36 cubits by 30 cubics. And the Kirtan hall is 32 cubits by 30 cubits. 74. Upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundicha temple, the Pandicha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are your servants. Whatever your desire is our duty to perform." The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore, order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you. As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundicha temple. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundicha temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with all the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place Simasan, cleansed it, and again put it in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple's buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the Kirtan hall. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places, he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, Bhoga Mandira, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed. Then all the residential quarters, one after another. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all with his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, "I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside." Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. After the inside of the temple was clean, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply waited for the Lord's order to throw the water from them. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for the water, all the men immediately brought the 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, Simasan, and everything else within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When the water fell, it washed the walls and floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Some brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. The water fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an inlet, and it flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms. When the temple was cleaned, it was purified, cool, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water brought water in pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling pots, and others were washing their rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names of Krishna, Krishna. Another delivered a pot while chanting Krishna, Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach them how to work. Teach him how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. The Lord would say, "You have done well. Please teach this to the others so they may act in the same way." This is all a lesson for us to apply in our everyday lives. As soon as they heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus the devotees began to work with great attention. They washed the Jagamana area, and then the place where food was kept. All other places were also washed. In this way, the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every room. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. The Gaudiya Vaishnava then took that water and drank it himself. Seeing that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt a little unhappy and was also outwardly angry. Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, he became angry externally in order to establish the etiquette of religious principles. The Lord then called for Swarup Damodar and told him, "Just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. This person from Bengal has washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, but he has drunk the water himself. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me." Purport. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar Goswami that the Bengali Vaishnava was your Gaudiya Vaishnava. This means that all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of the Chaitanya cult are subordinate to Swarup Damodar Goswami. The Pampara system is very strictly observed by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary was Swarup Damodar Goswami. The next group of devotees was the 6 Goswamis, then Kaviraj Goswami. It is necessary to observe the Pampara system of the Chaitanya cult. There are many offenses one can commit while serving the Lord, and these are described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and other books. According to the rules and regulation, no one should accept obeisances in the temple of the Lord before the deity, nor is it proper for a devotee to offer obeisances and touch the feet of the spiritual master before the deity. This is considered an offense. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it was not actually offensive to wash his feet in the temple. However, because he was playing the part of an acharya, the Lord considered himself an ordinary human being. He also wanted to give instructions to ordinary human beings. The point is that even though one plays the part of the supreme master, of the spiritual master, he should not accept obeisances or permit a disciple to wash his feet before the deity. This is a matter of etiquette. Text 128. At this point, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by the neck and, giving him a little push, he ejected him from the Gandicha Puri temple and made him stay outside. After Swarup Damodar Goswami returned within the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all the devotees to sit down in 2 lines on both sides. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains, and sand and dirty things. Grains of sand and dirty things. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, I shall gather everyone's collection, and I shall ask everyone to collect less than all the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice. In this way, all the quarters of the Gandicha temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and pacified mind. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appeared as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport. All right, this is a long one. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gandicha temple, commenting on cleansing of the Gandicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world teacher, was personally given instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified mind. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shishastaka, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila, chapter 20, text 12. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hri Yanta Stro Yat Had Rani. To wash away all the dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed. Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17 confirms this statement. Srimvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Sravanam Kirtana Hridayantasto hi adrayanti vibhunoti suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his message, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord. Shri Krishna. Shrinvatam Sakata Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-17. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions. But one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gandhika temple. The devotee, therefore, has to cleanse his heart just as the Lord cleansed the Gandhika temple. In this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains, and sand, the weeds or dust, in other words, anya bilasa purna, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anya Bilasita Sanyam Gina Karma Yada Anvitam. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.11. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, severe austerity, and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our heart unless our heart is cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed, as stated by Narottam Das Thakur. Samsara Visanale Vyadise Nisi Hidya Javale Judayate na kanum upaya. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to a higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination, When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activities is understood to be overcome by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bathe very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over his body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. The suffering of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way suffering can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Text 68, the Lord confirms that he sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadhavo hridayam majjam, sadhunam hridayam tvaham. impersonal, speculation, monism, merging with the existence of the Supreme, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit in our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes, yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as a way to begin their various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal of the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord, such unfortunate creatures are never favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For they do not know that devotional service is, what devotional service is. This is Gopa Kumar's guru, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, told him when he was in Jagannath Puri, because he was in charge of taking care of the temple. He was really ecstatic about the service. He really got into it to the point he became indifferent to chanting his mantra. And so here we see that above everything else, that this chanting must go on. This is the primary activity. You can't think that I'm doing service in the temple and that takes its place of chanting. Rather, it's there to support chanting. That's the purpose. 16 rounds is, sometimes Rita Ananda Goswami will say that chanting at temple worship is the neophyte platform, which possibly, this was true, but if you're only chanting 16 rounds, you give up deity worship and you're only chanting 16 rounds, which is a minimum, Prabhupada said. That's not advancement either. So the two things have to go on. Unless you're chanting more rounds when you give up these other service or replace them with another service. But chanting is the most important. Not that you can just give up chanting in favor instead of this other service. So Lord Krishna describes them. So anyway, he told Gopa Kumar that do not be indifferent to chanting your mantra. This is the most important. You should give it up, never give it up. Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad Gita in this way. Taham vadistatam kuran samsaresu naradhanam krishpanyas jasram asubam asurisveva yos nisu. Those who are envious and mischievous and who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text 19. By his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes a subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kunti nati, fault-finding, and pratistasa, the desire for the name and fame and for higher position, jiva himsa, envy of other living entities, nasidhacharya, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra, kama, the desire for material gain, and puja, hankering for popularity. The word kunti nati means duplicity. As an example of pratistasa, one may attempt to imitate Sri Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire maybe for the name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur, just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely the desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is filled again with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar incarnation. The word jivahamsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakara, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic. But all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulated principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instruments, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. This second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleansing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain within the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religiosity, dharma, artha, karma, and moksha. All these are like spots on clean cloth. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to cleanse all these away. Jai, Haribol. That pretty much did it.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Ako Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami yasa sakalen Driya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami
Bhajami Govindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacha Nagin Visesha Shunyavati Pashacha Vaisatana Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hey, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnu.
Chaitodarpana marjanam Bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadamari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nainam Gadashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gadarudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyavapadam Anastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata Vinadatu Lampato Mat Prananatastu Saivanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his grace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Sri